He had spoken about a person who's a Talmud Chacham, a Torah scholar. He should not eat in a public area. He should not eat in a marketplace because he'll be seen in a compromised position. Because if people see that he eats the way they eat, they'll see him in that he's no different than they are. And as a result of that, that passing the judgment on him, what he is, actually diminishes who he really is. Okay? Even when he eats with his own peer group, other chachomim, he shouldn't have too many meals. It's not appropriate. You know, people are always feasting. You call him up, where are you? He's out to lunch. Can you imagine you have an employee, whenever you call him, he's out to lunch. They say, so when is he working? Lunch is supposed to be from 12 to 12:45. It's 4 in the afternoon, he's out to lunch. Okay? Because again, it doesn't reflect well. Being a spiritual person where his spirituality is primary and his physicality is only to facilitate the spirituality, why is he having the question immediately arises? Why is he involved in all these various extensive involvements in food? He should not participate in a suda and a meal which have great numbers of people eating at that meal. Because again, when you have that kind of crowd, if he's unique, he will not stand out to be unique. He'll just be totally subsumed by the group. And as a result of that, he'll be seen in a frame, he'll be framed less than he is. The Talmud tells us that Yecheskel HaNavi, Yecheskel the prophet, he never ever partook of a meal which was not a Sudas mitzvah. What does that mean? This man is not involved in the mundane. Why is he there? Nobody should be able to say he's there because he wants to feast. If it's a Sudas mitzvah, they say he's there because it has that mitzvah aspect to it. So that reflects, that's in sync in terms of who he is. But if he's there because it's just a social event, if he is who he is, what's he doing at a social event? Unless he's the guest speaker. Goes Sudas Erisin Unusuin, he attends a marriage. And also it has to be an appropriate marriage. What about if it's a not appropriate marriage, for instance? Not God forbid a person marrying out of faith. What happens? A Bas Talmud Chochem marries an Amoritz, marries a ignoramus. I mean, it's you're taking a person of great pedigree and she's getting involved in a relationship which she's not able to actually live her life as she was raised. It's not appropriate marriage. It's something you stay away from because you can't condone it. You don't condone that kind of marriage. But tzaddik v'chasidim rishonim and the tzaddikim and the original chasidim lo'ochlu el besuda shein shlem. They would not eat of anything which was not their own. They would not be hosted by anyone. Only partook of their own food. Samuel the prophet, who was one of the greatest prophets, Shmuel HaNavi, always ate of his own food, never ate of anybody else's food. Why? It goes into the concept that King Solomon says, Soni Matonis Yichir. A one who despises gifts, he lives. Why? Because that's emulating Hashem on the ultimate level. Just as Hashem is never on the receiving end, he's always on the giving end. The tzaddik and his great chosid, they always want to be on the giving and never on the receiving end. So to be hosted by another person, it's not in sync with who they want to be. So the Gemara talks about a very interesting situation. What happens if the person invites you to the meal, not because he wants to do for you, he's honored through your presence. So you're not the beneficiary, he's the beneficiary. The food that you eat is only a means for him to be a beneficiary. If that's the case, you permit it. Even though the food is not, he's on the giving end, that's not called on the taking end. Okay? There's a story in the biography of Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzaddik V'Vorcha, very interesting. By the Hasidim, there's a concept known as Shirayim. What is Shirayim? We just read about the meal offering in this last week's reading, that the Kohen takes a palmful of the flour with the oil, he sacrifices that, and what's left, it's called Shirayim, is holy, and it's eaten by the Kohanim. So because the leftover is part of that palmful which goes on the altar, therefore even what's left over has holiness. It's a remnant of something of a special mitzvah. So let's say you have a great tzaddik, and he partakes of food. The food that he leaves over, it's the same thing. It's the equivalent of what's left over for the Kohanim of the palmful that's put on the Mizbeach. That's called Shirayim. And the Hasidim, so very often they bring a very large tray of whatever it is, fruit, fish, cake. The Rebbe, the head of the dynasty, takes a morsel of it. Literally a pittance. The moment he takes that, the rest is distributed among the Hasidim. Why? Because now what's left over, that's leftover of something that the Rebbe had partaken of. So listen to the story. Rav Moshe Feinstein lived on the Lower East Side. Moshe Feinstein not only was the leading Torah decider of the generation, he was a very holy man, very unassuming, and very special, one of a kind. And he finishes Shabbos morning in where he davened in his yeshiva, and afterwards they have a small kiddush. He has the kiddush. He has wine, a little cake, and he's being escorted to go home. He was about a 15-minute walk from where he lived, the yeshiva, because I lived in that area in the same neighborhood. And all of a sudden, he meets somebody, a person, a Hasidic Jew, and he speaks to him a few moments, and he says to the person who's going to walk with him home, says, "You have to excuse me, I have to go back. I have to go back into the yeshiva." Why is he going back? So the person who comes, he says, "I'll go with you." See, comes Rabbi Feinstein back into the yeshiva, and he explains to the person with him, this chassid who came every Shabbos, he always came earlier, and after Moshe Feinstein finished eating his cake, he would eat the leftovers, the shirayim. This week he came late, and he left. So he asked him, could he go back and eat some more cake, so what's left over, he'll be able to eat shirayim. So he went back. He wasn't interested in eating the cake, but he did it for this person, so he should have leftovers, which have that special status. So he ate a little bit, so the chassid should be able to have the leftover. You tell Ben, something, you come on time, you're not on time, you missed the boat. That's not the way he was. If he could accommodate a person's wishes, he accommodated a person's wishes. So there, why did he eat the cake? Did he eat the cake because he wanted cake? He ate the cake because this man wanted shirayim. So let's say he didn't have his own cake, and the man would say, eat a piece of my cake, so I should have shirayim. Is that person giving his food to Rav Moshe Feinstein? Moshe Feinstein is only eating the food for the person who's giving it. That's not considered benefiting from somebody else's food. So the Talmud says that if the person who benefits, the host is the honoree, because the special person allows his presence to be acknowledged, that itself, that person is not on the receiving end, he's on the giving end. Torah says even the people who participate in this meal are of similar classification, similar class. But if it's many people there, when many people gather, automatically you blend into you lose your uniqueness, your identity. Every Talmud Chacham, every Torah scholar has a certain uniqueness. In such a crowd, you lose that uniqueness. I'll give you an example. The Gemara tells us, the Talmud tells us, and we're going to have this right after Pesach, Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 students, and they passed away over a 33-day period during the Sefira period. And They're his students. They're the most advanced people of the generation. So, and the Gemara asked Talmud, why? People of such special caliber of Torah, why did they pass away 24,000 in 33 days? So the Gemara answers, Lo nogu kovod bozer. They did not treat each other with proper respect. So because they didn't treat each other with proper respect, therefore they all perished during this 30-day period. So it's clear, it doesn't mean what it says. What do you mean? Firstly, if they were of that special caliber, you mean they didn't treat others with proper respect? And even if they didn't, if Rabbi Kiva, being the Rebbe, being the teacher, if he would have seen this, he would have noticed it. He immediately would have reined in on them and reprimanded them. He didn't. So evidently, it's something which was so subtle, nobody could see it. So where exactly did they fail? So the way we explained it in the past was this way. I'll give you an example. You have two Talmidei Chachamim. Two people are very learned. And you have one person of a certain level. And the other person is Ramosha Feinstein, Rebbe Yoshev. And you accord the same respect to them as you accord to any ordinary Talmid Chacham. Is it appropriate? It's not appropriate. Well, I treat Talmid Chacham with respect, with reverence. But you realize this is a different caliber. This person's head and shoulders above most people. You have to relate to him totally differently, a greater level of reverence, greater respect. Every one of Reb Kiva's students, no two people are the same level. The nuances of difference. But they didn't see those differences. Of course, they treated each other with respect, but due to each one being different, each one had to treat the other with another level of respect because each one is different than the other. That they glossed over. And that's why they died. So I'm saying the same thing here. Persons are unique Talmud Chacham. You have a small group, everybody has their identity. A large banquet, you have many people, they're all peers, but you're one of many. When you become one of many, then your uniqueness automatically is absorbed and lost by the others. You're subsumed by the group. It's a group of Talmidei Chachamim. But who you are something unique, that's lost. That's lost in the crowd. Therefore, he should not. Because who you are, you have to recognize who you are. To be effective to the degree that who you are. That's why I understand it. Minutes. When a Talmid Chacham drinks wine, why does he drink wine? He drinks wine because he enjoys wine. You know, it's interesting. Today, the wine, the vineyard keepers, they named the wine, interesting names. Somebody gave me a bottle of wine for Purim. The bottle is a beautiful bottle. It must cost at least $60 from Israel. It's called Or HaGanuz. You know what Or HaGanuz is? That's a Kabbalistic term, the hidden light. You hear this? That's what they named the wine. The Or HaGanuz. It's like, you drink that wine, you're going to the Fountain of Youth, you and Ponce de Leon, you're going to the Fountain of Youth. It's inappropriate. How do you use that name? The hidden light, Or HaGanuz, on wine. Oh, because it's a quality wine. Wine, Torah is compared to wine. Inappropriate. I got to drink that wine because, it's a certain vintage. It's 8 years old. I only drink until now, I've had 4-year vintage. Now it's his 8th. A Talmid Chacham, that's why he should be drinking wine. Or I like to drink, I like the taste. That fruit, people speak, it's the fruit taste. It's a smoky taste. It's this. For a person, Talmid Chacham, that's appropriate conversation. It's like, what kind of hot dog do you eat? Do you eat a special? Do you eat a little one? Or do you eat a weenie? What do you eat? Or a Franks and Blanks? How do you eat it? Well, I try to keep low fat, because my doctor says stay away from cholesterol. I have to lower my cholesterol. Is that an appropriate discussion for a Talmid Chacham? It's not appropriate. So if a Talmid Chacham drinks wine, why does he drink wine? Yesterday, I went out with somebody who's just a very close student of mine, very special guy. And he said to me that since he's 13, he's always wanted to be successful, financially successful. Today's in his mid-40s. And this person was successful, but he hasn't achieved the level of success that he wanted to achieve. So I said to him, well, why do you want to be successful? Do you want to be successful that you should be successful? Or do you want to be successful because you want to do special things? And unless you're successful, you can't do those special things. That's the question I asked him. If you want to be successful because you want to be successful, then it's not so simple. Everything is you. The success is based upon what you want. And thank God he lives very, very well, this person. And he feels he's not successful sufficiently. What more do you want? As it is now, you're in your mid-40s and you have 3 homes. And as is when you fly always in a private jet, right? What more? So if you say whatever you have, it's not enough to do for others, okay? That's admirable. It's a very altruistic reason why you want to be successful. To give more tzedakah, more philanthropy, do more chesed, that's great. But if it's not that, boy, you're disappointed. He said, thank God, I have enough. I'm not going to be distracted with all this, be involved in being more successful. And people don't think about this. Why do you want to be more successful? Why do you want to be a success? For what reason? Provide for your family. And if you could provide, why is that enough? Well, you don't have to hedge against, I have to save for a rainy day. You never know. I need that security cushion. Okay, whatever it is. But again, person has to ask himself, why do you want that? If you want it for the right reason, it's great. But if you don't want it for the right reason, automatically it's it's not wrong. It's not a sin, but then that's called an exercise of futility. You have to put food on the table, there's no question. You have to live decently, no question. To live luxuriously, questionable. To live hedonistically, that's a whole different area.